advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, my friends, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't yet, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the red pill, hit the thumbs up, wherever you're at. That'll be blast. All right, we got plenty to talk about today. A name that you may remember from back 2016, I believe, popped up in the news again today, tragically. But this young man effed around and found out. And thank God things didn't go much, much worse. I'm talking about the shooting that happened earlier today at Old Dominion University. Could have been much, much worse. Thank God it wasn't. We are also going to be checking in with a strange tale of crypto madness coming out of Ohio. I know that I do have some Ohio patriots in the chat. I'm interested to know if you've heard anything about this story. Also, we've just learned that back in November, looks like some Antifa cucks broke into Fort Campbell in Kentucky and stole some military drones? Only now we're learning about this. Good Lord. All right, so what I need from you is to sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to get into this and so much more right after this. So new inflation numbers are out of Washington, and it shows that once again, inflation is on the rise. That's another threat to you, another threat to your savings account, and of course, also your retirement. So you got to ask yourself an honest question here. Does your dollar go as far today as it did 10 years ago? Well, what about 5 years ago, even last year? Then what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? Because if your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's about time to rethink your strategy, because gold has kept up with inflation, and in many periods, it's actually outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investments specialize in helping people protect their wealth using physical gold and silver. Whether you're going to roll over an IRA or make a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process, and they make it super simple. There's no pressure, just education and experience. And right now, all new qualified accounts are going to receive a free 1/10 of an ounce America Gold Eagle as a thank you. To find out, you can visit noblegoldinvestments.com/redpill78 and discover just how easy it is to protect your financial future. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com/redpill78. And when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, my friends, welcome back. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I need to get a couple of things situated on my desktop. I forgot to do a pop out of the Rumble rants, and I need to adjust my other chats. There we go. All right. So I've got a couple of quick bits for you. First of all, I wanted to begin by letting you guys know that Tina Peters has been found not guilty of assault. You might remember several weeks ago, there was an incident in the prison where she's being held between Tina and another female inmate. So the prison board has ruled that that incident was Tina Peters acting in self-defense. So she was found not guilty in the Colorado Department of Corrections disciplinary hearing after this altercation with another inmate. We did have video of the incident. I felt that it was pretty clear when I watched it. It was widely circulated throughout the news. After carefully looking at not only the video, but also the facts of the situation, speaking with both Tina and the other woman that attacked her, it's clear she was acting in self-defense. This woman was 29 years old, okay? Tina Peters, She's in great shape, but she is a senior citizen, okay? She's not trying to come after some local hood rat inmate in some type of misguided prison beef. Tina did respond to the ruling, and she said, "Today, reason and truth prevailed. I was found not guilty. The Department of Corrections fairly considered the evidence and concluded that I defended myself. I'm thankful to the board for carefully considering the evidence and that they were not swayed by media coverage." Of course, if you want to keep up to date with the latest happening in Tina's case, you can still follow her X account at Real Tina Peters. I believe it is being run by her team. Let me see. So, Unix Reactor says, Zach, I believe yesterday you asked if I read the 0-point quantum vacuum plasma paper just out, major journal. Yes, big things on the horizon. Yes, good. I'm glad that you did. And I talked with Josh a little bit about it on Monday night on Baseless Conspiracies. So, anyways, I'm very happy to hear that. Of course, we are going to keep Tina's face on screen until she is released. I also read an interesting article the other day about the history and precedence of the presidential pardon. Initially, when our country was founded, the United States consisted of every single state, and the United States was all of these United States. It was not a singular entity, a corporate entity, the United States, and then each individual state acting underneath it. So the concept of the pardon was that the president had the ability and the power to pardon anyone for any reason, barring, I believe, impeachment. That's the only thing that presidents can't pardon for. It wasn't until there were a couple of key court rulings which seemed to deem that the president's power only extended to federal crimes, and if a inmate or a person who had been found guilty was to be pardoned at the state level, it would have to be done by the governor. So there is still a possibility that President Trump's pardon may be considered when Jared Polis goes to rule on his pardons and commutations. Of course, that also means that Tina Peters is going to end up remaining in prison perhaps for the rest of the year, and the quicker we get her out, the better. So keep her in your prayers. All right. Now, we also have some new information coming from our man, Tim Burchett. He currently is filing legislation to abolish the capital gains tax on property, which would be really, really big. He says, I would rather let America decide what they do with their dadgum money than a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in Washington and 535 congresspeople. Let's go ahead and hear it from Tim himself. Now, obviously, this is only something that affects you if you're going to be selling a home, you're going to be selling some property. But, of course, anything that they can do to stop our money from ending up in the hands of people who would use it against us, I am firmly in favor of.
I think so. And I think what you got to realize, every single Democrat voted for a tax increase, and they want to take.
No, the Constitution does not say he can pardon state crimes. What I'm saying is that the distinction saying that he could only pardon for federal crimes only came after a couple of key court decisions. Prior to that, the concept of the United States was not a separate entity from the states. That wasn't until after the Civil War. These United States were every state making up the United States. And so it was only after those two specific court cases, and amen, I will find it for you so that I can tell you what those cases were, that specifically defined the president's power only as able to pardon federal crimes. So what the language in the Constitution in terms of the pardon does not specify between state and federal crimes. It only says that the president has the pardon to the president has the power to pardon.
That tax reduction back from you that you've earned. They don't like the tax, no tax on tips. They don't like any of the other stuff. I'd like to see us go a little farther. I'm going to prepare some legislation to take away our capital gains tax on a piece of property. And, you know, it's just redundant. And the thing you realize, John, and you understand this, is that when you tax people less, they don't stick it in a dadgum pillowcase under their bed.
That's right.
They reinvest it. They put it in a bank, and that bank loans it out to other people. Or they buy something. They buy an automobile, and under Trump's plan, American automobiles, the reduction's there. It's just on down the line. I just think Americans are I would rather let America decide what they do with their dadgum money than a bunch of unelected bureaucrats in Washington and 535 Congress people, because it's just, to me, it never ends. It's never ending. We're closing in on $40 trillion in debt. And when is enough of our spending?
Congress, I think you just made some news. You're going to introduce legislation to get rid of the capital gains tax on when you sell a house. That's a big thing for retirees or people nearing retirement. When do you think that'll happen? And do you got some co-sponsors that are going to come behind you? Because it seems like that'd be a pretty popular idea.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen because we don't have the guts to do it. I probably won't even get a hearing in the committee. That's really the problem we have in Washington, D.C., and it's both parties. It's not necessarily the chairman, but the committees are so big. I almost wish we had smaller committees that were divided up under individual things, a little more concise, and that way we wouldn't have all these monster mega spending bills, and that we could do them individually.
And it would also be a lot easier if we had more representatives representing a fewer number of people. Then we could have, I was just talking with Frank and Adel about this over there on Taking It Back, because then those people would be living in their communities, and perhaps we could have regional delegations of people who would be representing smaller groups of people within their state. We have a greater number of representatives, so then they would be able to operate on many more committees, and then you could have regional cooperation on issues that affect the people of all of those different districts. So this is the story that I also made mention of in the introduction. Apparently, there has been a rash of Bigfoot sightings across Ohio. Let me also say thank you to My Undivided Life, who says, buy Zach and Lisa dinner tonight, $1 challenge. I appreciate that, homie. Really, thank you very much. Also, Hogleg71, thank you for the cookie as well. So I guess there have been a number of Bigfoot sightings. They are of varying sizes, from, I believe, about 7 feet up to 10 feet tall. And it's been happening in the area between Akron and Youngstown in Portage County, Ohio. Specifically, there have been about 7 Bigfoot sightings. And since Friday, they have really ramped up. One of the latest sightings just happened on Monday evening in Streetsboro. The witness insisted they had never seen any of the other reports that were made. They were passing the Tinkers Creek area when a 6.5-foot lean brown Bigfoot appeared in their lane, but going against the flow of traffic. They were so close that the witness said her daughter could have reached out and hit the Bigfoot with her arm. She was so freaked out, she couldn't turn around and go back. She's not a Bigfoot person. This is not the kind of thing she was out there looking for. Now, none of these Bigfoot spotters have managed to grab a photo. That isn't particularly surprising. From what I understand, when these things show up, a lot of people are just kind of freaked out, and they're trying to determine whether or not their mind is playing tricks on them. And the reports have been made to Bigfoot societies. This particular Bigfoot society is the Bigfoot, I guess it's the Bigfoot Society of Ohio. But none of them have been made to the police. And that also doesn't surprise me, because what are you going to do? You're going to call the police and say, I just saw a Bigfoot. You know, I mean, the cops are going to be like, sure, whatever, buddy, you know, have a few less beers. They're not going to come out and they're not going to go investigate. No crime has been committed. So who would have known that cell phone cameras don't exist in Northeast Ohio, one person said on X. But again, if you see something only briefly that completely boggles your mind, I mean, like if I saw a Bigfoot sighting, I would probably try to get my phone out. But of course, you know, who's to say that you would even be able to catch a usable or an image that you would be able to show somebody and they would recognize it as a Bigfoot. So the sightings appear to be progressing eastward, which suggests from the Bigfoot Society that there is some type of a green highway where maybe a family of cryptids is migrating through the area. Based on these coordinates, the subjects appear to be using the Headwaters Trail Greenbelt as a primary travel corridor. The variation in height, 6 to 10 feet tall, and color, either from brown to black, suggests we're not tracking a single individual, but perhaps a family group or maybe multiple subjects that are all migrating eastward. The first sighting came on Friday when somebody claimed to have seen a 9-foot-tall beast in broad daylight before it ran off after being spotted. Then Saturday, there was an 8-foot creature who was grunting in a woodland area around 11 p.m. with a footprint that was actually found afterwards. This is the other aspect. It's not just people saying, I saw a Bigfoot. There has actually been physical evidence that has been left, and so that is being collected and cataloged. There were 4 more sightings over the following days through Tuesday morning, one of which left somebody's German Shepherd visibly shaking with fear after they encountered this Bigfoot in their backyard. Others, however, thought that even if these beasts are real, they wouldn't be around for long, given the rough reputation of Northeast Ohio. Somebody said that boy is not going to make it past Youngstown. Well, I think that I believe in Bigfoot. Just going to put it out there. And I think that these animals, these creatures, have been able to survive primarily because of their ability to either camouflage themselves or stay out of the view of humans. And for whatever reason, they're moving through this area. Perhaps another corridor that they had was cut off through development or something like that. But I find this to be highly fascinating, and so I cannot wait to see if anything else comes up from it. Let me say thank you so much to D. Carroll 8, who says, dinner challenge accepted. I love your show, Zach. We had a Bigfoot sighting here in Oklahoma, too, for whatever it is worth. That's cool. I would love to hear about it. Kitsko 2 says, it would be nice if committee members had experience in matters at hand, not the most donor money collected. Bigfoot, interesting distraction. LOL. That's kind of what I thought, too. Big Gouda says, Dala Hala for some brown sugar on your sweet potato. Thank you so much for that. Also, thank you to Dixie, who says, but did they smell, Zach? I bet you they probably stunk pretty bad. Sean Joe, thank you for the can as well. Appreciate you, buddy. All right. Now, I also wanted to check in on this situation with the missing U.S. Air Force Major General, Neil McCasland, William Neil McCasland. He is still missing, and the FBI is involved in the search for Major General Neil McCasland. He's 68 years old. He vanished from his Albuquerque home on February 27th. The circumstances of his going missing are raising a lot of questions. He left his phone. He didn't appear to take any personal affects. Did not leave a mess, did not leave any indication with his wife either that he was planning on going anywhere. However, his history and the work that he did in the Air Force, which appears to have been the reverse engineering of off-world technology, has led a lot of people to believe that the reason he has gone missing is because of President Trump's executive order on the reveal of this information from the Pentagon. I was speaking with Josh about this the other night as well. I tend to believe that the government and these even subgroups that are operating, working on secret black budget programs, you're going to have different factions that may have competing goals that they are hoping to achieve. I think you've got some people within the Pentagon and within these various branches of the military that would like for disclosure to happen. And then you've got others who do not want any of this stuff to be revealed. And I would imagine it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for Major General McCasland to either go missing so that he could protect himself, knowing that there may be this struggle or this war that might be taking place. Or it's also not out of the realm of possibility that perhaps he was taken to be removed from the chessboard so that he couldn't come out and reveal something that somebody else did not want him to reveal. The type of information that Major General McCasland might have access to or might be asked about would potentially have the possibility to set humanity free. We're talking about advanced means of energy production, advanced propulsion. So I think that the part he would play in a disclosure operation could be dangerous to people with a lot of money. And perhaps people who have a lot of power. So the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office confirmed that he did leave his home on foot. It was about 11 a.m. He hasn't been seen or heard from anywhere since. His cell phone was left behind. He has not contacted friends and family. There is an account on X that appears to be connected to him that was previously in contact with Austin, or I'm sorry, what is it? MH370 researcher. God, why can't I remember his last name? Somebody is going to know it in the chat before I have a chance to look it up. MH370. Somebody else is going to pull it up. Well, wow, and I'm searching MH370, and he's not even coming up. Ashton, that's it. Ashton Forbes. Thank you so much. He was in contact with Ashton Forbes, and he was giving him advice on certain tactics he should take and trying to get disclosure on MH370, giving him schematics on advanced propulsion technologies. Pretty cool stuff. So anyways, McCasland is missing. There is another scientist roughly from the same area that went missing also on a hiking trip about 2 weeks prior to him. And she was also dealing in certain research related to this field. So I think it's possible her disappearance might be related to this as well. What's particularly troubling about it is that the FBI is involved, and they have basically taken point from local law enforcement, and they've also put out a request for all like ring camera, security camera footage from a wide area so that they can see if Major General McCasland was sighted on any of these cameras. And the way it looks is that nobody has seen him. He essentially just disappeared into a black hole. So there was a post from the sheriff's department on Facebook after he had been gone for a week, just kind of reinforcing the things that I've already said. They also made sure to mention that it's totally unlike Neil to be missing, to go out of touch with his family for this length of time. They don't have any indication that he is dead. They don't have any indication that he went anywhere. So they just continued to look, and they've said that they would share information as they got it. His wife has also made a number of posts on Facebook. She said there's no indication that a mothership came to take him away, but still there is no indication that he didn't. He also was somebody who had previously advised Tom DeLonge. He was a musician from Blink-182, kind of connected to some CIA ops, in my opinion. And so, you know, he was already known to people because of that. So I will continue to look into this and see if there's anything that comes up. But as it is right now, there appears to be no sign or indication that William Neil McCasland is going to be coming back, or that he is even gone anywhere. In today's world, considering how connected everything is, considering how surveilled everything is, and considering his particular role that he has played in some very sensitive subjects, it is really, really unusual that he would be able to just completely disappear. Now, we also have some good news coming out of the First Circuit Court of Appeals. There was a block that had been placed. A lower court had ruled that the Trump administration could not deport illegal aliens to third world countries that were willing to accept them. Well, the First Circuit Court has vacated or lifted that block, and the Trump administration, of course, appealed after U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy ruled on this case last week. There was an initial ruling back in February. They had asked for a stay. They argued Murphy's order violated 2 previous Supreme Court rulings and created an unworkable scheme that threatened to derail negotiations with other countries, along with thousands upon thousands of deportations that are vital to the success of this administration and the safety and security of the United States of America. Now we can go ahead and begin to continue those deportations, sending people to places like Uganda, or Eritrea. I don't even know where. There's places all around the world where we're going to be sending people. One of those people is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He doesn't want to go back to his home country, and he's going to be going and staying at some different shithole someplace else in another country. Now, Eric Swalwell, this is something we haven't talked about for a while, but he's currently facing a lawsuit and a growing list of people who are attacking him for not really being a resident of California. Although he is a Democrat frontrunner in the governor's race currently, he has never owned a home in California. He currently owns a home in Washington, D.C., and he had no primary residence in the state of California. However, he has now been forced to identify a location where he allegedly has been living for the last 9 years while he served in Congress. The only problem is that there is nobody in the neighborhood where Eric Swalwell allegedly lives who has ever seen the man in the last 9 years. 5 people who live in this quiet neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac, all right? So it's not like there's a whole bunch of traffic coming through and people would miss you. He claims to have lived there since 2017, but no one who lives in that neighborhood has ever seen Eric Swalwell either coming or going, parking his car, taking out the trash. There are people who have been there for years during the entire length of time that Eric Swalwell allegedly lived there, who have moved in since that time. And because of the fact that this is a cul-de-sac, it seems like everybody in the neighborhood seems to know each other. Now, a woman named Lauren Anthony, she's 19 years old, and she lives in a house just 2 doors down from Eric Swalwell's address. She told the Post that she has never seen him after being shown his picture. When she asked, "How long have you lived on this street?" she said, "My entire life." She and her family have lived there since she was a baby. Eric Swalwell, in my opinion, and I'm sure in your opinion as well, has a problem with his residency. And because he currently is running for the governor of the state of California, it's incumbent upon him to prove that he truly is a resident of the state of California. He's currently being sued by a filmmaker, and that lawsuit has been amplified by billionaire Tom Steyer. Now, Tom Steyer is a progressive leftist himself, but he is also calling on the Secretary of State of California to investigate. Ryan Hughes is an attorney for Steyer, and he has argued that Swalwell is a California resident on paper only, and state officials should probably investigate whether or not he should even be on the June primary ballot. He has not fulfilled the residency requirement to run for statewide office after he moved his entire family to Washington, D.C., shortly after being elected back in 2016. Swalwell was a former prosecutor. He does maintain a license with the state bar, and he filed a sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury claiming he's been a resident of California since 2006, and he's lived in Livermore since 2017. Now, the records show he lists his domicile as a home that is owned by someone named Nicholas and Christina Mizwica, the latter of whom is reportedly the sister-in-law of Swalwell's former political mentor, someone named Tim Srabanti. Now, Christina Mizwica also filed a sworn affidavit claiming that Swalwell and his wife Brittany entered into a lease agreement for that property in June of 2017. It's not really a lease agreement for the property. It's a lease agreement for one of the rooms in the property, because apparently this family actually lives in that house, and Eric Swalwell just has a room that he can use so that he can have mail sent there. He lives at the property where he is in the East Bay, and he keeps significant belongings there at all times, she said. On Wednesday, people tried to go visit the 1,300 square foot home, but nobody answered. And Nicholas Mizwica quickly hung up when he was contacted by phone to answer a couple of key questions. Now, the outside of the home is more modest than the 5-star hotels and boutique inns that Swalwell has frequently charged to his campaign in recent years, including stays in and around his California district. The home had running shoes strewn across the doorstep, an upside-down container of cottage cheese that was left in the yard, and faded patio chairs were placed near the doorstop right next to the fire pit in the backyard. And behind a chain-link fence, there is a dog that was barking in the family's backyard. You can see that family right there. So this is the neighborhood. You can see there's only so many houses, there's only so many cars, only so many opportunities for people to come and go. Of course, you're going to notice those cars that are coming. You're going to notice the people that are coming. Here's the dog, not Eric Swalwell's dog. Here's that cottage cheese, and it looks like there's a rotted orange that's also there as well. There's another woman who lives right next door. She's been there since 2005. She didn't want to give her name, but she said, I too have never seen this man after being shown his picture. A man who left that same home minutes later also told the Post, I've never seen that guy around. Now, despite Eric Swalwell's claims that he's lived at this Livermore home, campaign records in recent years show that he has spent a significant amount of money and time staying in hotels in and around his congressional district. And just last year, Swalwell made 19 different charges to his campaign at the luxury hotel. It's called the Rosewood Sand Hill in Menlo Park. We know this because his campaign records show it. Frequently, he's campaigning and rubbing elbows with celebrities, and it led him to actually miss most of the votes that any active member of Congress would make before the end of the year. In 2023 and 2024, Swalwell made 24 charges at hotels in San Francisco. He mostly stayed at the five-star One Hotel in San Francisco on the Embarcadero, as well as the waterfront boutique inn Hotel Griffin. This right here is the Rose Hotel that Eric Swalwell likes to frequent. This right here is the ornate interior of the Rose Hotel. It's a boutique hotel. There's only 38 rooms. Now, during that same time, Eric Swalwell racked up 9 different charges at that Rose Hotel in Pleasanton, a luxury boutique located less than 8 miles from that Livermore home. He also had 3 charges with the hotel that appear to have been overturned, totaling almost $1,739. Early on in the days of the pandemic, between 2021 and 2022, Swalwell also stayed at the Rose Hotel in Pleasanton, despite claiming to live in his district. He also logged charges at the Fairmount Hotel and the Hotel Adagio in San Francisco. Jessica Levinson, who is a professor at Loyola Law School, told the New York Post that the state constitution requires 5 years of residency in California before an election, and a domicile requires a candidate to have a physical presence and intent to remain or return to that home. So it looks like there's a real problem here, she said. If you think there's an argument that he has not, in fact, complied with the California constitutional requirement that the governor be a resident of the state, something should be done about it. She believes that, just as I believe that. Now, his campaign has declined to answer any questions when asked by the New York Post about either the term of his lease or why it would be that his neighbors never knew a congressman and now the leading candidate for California Democrat governor would be living on their street for nearly 9 years. Instead, he lashed out on social media in a tweet that was aimed at Tom Steyer and the New York Post. He said, I received hundreds of death threats every year. My children are not allowed in the yard. That's why my address is private. And now Tom Steyer has not only put my life at risk, but also my family's by releasing my address. What a pussy. The focus on his residency claims became an issue after Joel Gilbert and his team sued Eric Swalwell in January. Gilbert had previously reported Swalwell's home address in a story in November of 2025. That's the first time we talked about it here. Now, it's unclear whether or not California officials are interested in whether or not Eric Swalwell has residency issues. They haven't indicated whether or not they care to investigate. But State Attorney General Rob Bonta did issue an opinion that the law doesn't require the Secretary of State to investigate whether a candidate actually lives where they claim. So essentially, the law is basically whatever we say it is. And in this instance, we don't care whether or not Eric Swalwell has told the truth. Cherokee, good to see you, Cherokee. Winner, winner, Zach and Lisa's dinner. Thank you so much, Cherokee. Denise Ann says, dinner challenge accepted. It's just Harry trying to find a new home. Hopefully he won't get hit by a car again. I really hope not. Bowler Jack Bryan says, thanks, Zach. Red Pill News is the best. Thank you, my friend. And Big Gouda, I read that one. Big Bird 38 says, thank you for all you do. Thank you for the phone. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. And Unchained 01 says, McCasland and Guthrie eloped to Zeta Reticuli. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe. All right. Now, we've also just gotten some new information about the Obama Foundation and this monstrosity, the Obama State Library that was built on what was previously public parkland. That's right. Barack Hussein Obama and his foundation built this massive gross, brutalist looking building on land that was previously used for children to play on. These newly released filings show that Obama has set up a situation where a lot of people are making a massive amount of money off of this foundation. And don't forget, the library itself is massively over budget. Anybody who remembers the grift of the Clinton Foundation might be a little bit deja vu'd after hearing this one. You guys remember Valerie Jarrett? She was the former Obama White House confidant. She was a big central player in his administration. She's an employee of the Obama Foundation. She makes $740,000 a year running this thing. And the president of the United States doesn't even make that much. So this, and obviously Donald Trump donates his salary, but this is many, many more times what any president would be making. There are other figures who are also pulling in huge six-figure salaries, and the number of employees is now over 300 people. Obama is basically a cottage industry of left-wing deep state grift at this point. Construction right now, nearing completion, was supposed to be completed a long time ago. It's at about $850 million. It's officially called the Obama Presidential Center, and we've learned this new information from federal tax filings. This Obama Foundation is going to operate on this 19.3-acre center on publicly owned Chicago parkland and is paying Valerie Jarrett more than any other major presidential foundation. Salaries and benefits at the Obama Foundation soared from $18.5 million in 2018 to $43.7 million in 2024. And as staffing expanded to 337 employees and annual revenue reached nearly $210 million. Now, with Valerie Jarrett being one of Obama's closest advisors, becoming CEO in 2021 was probably a natural move for her. She's among 6 of the foundation's 10 highest paid executives, all of whom held previous senior roles in the Obama administration or in the Obama campaign. Illinois Democrats are truly living their best lives, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to help design the ugliest building in Chicago. Their jaw-dropping salaries prove the Illinois culture of corruption is alive and well as Barack Hussein Obama's top allies rake in the cash. Now, this Obama Center was supposed to open a long time ago, but the budget kept getting bigger. The building kept getting delayed. They kept running out of money, and it's probably because they were putting it in the hands of people like Valerie and all of the others that helped Barack Obama destroy the United States of America when he was in power. And of course, they had to fight back against President Trump, the only man who was willing to do something about his tainted legacy from the Obama administration. Now, I don't know if you guys tuned in to Altered State last night, but I suggested something that I just learned yesterday to Brad. And the concept is this, and I'm really glad to see that Senator Mike Lee is talking about this today, because I jokingly said maybe I could get a hold of J.D. Vance through JR and we could tell him that this is something he should do. But you know, the vice president is the president of the Senate, and the president of the Senate is kind of a ceremonial role now, basically just there to cast a tie-breaking vote. When he's in town, he will preside over things, but he lets the members do their own thing. You've got the majority leader and the minority leader. The majority leader basically sets the tone and you know, brings all the legislation forward. It's all going through a series of gatekeepers. But John Adams was the president of the Senate while he was vice president for a full 4 years, and he actually handled all of the day-to-day business in the Senate. Now, what that means essentially is that J.D. Vance could walk into the Senate at any point and just take the gavel and say, this is what we're going to do. He could change the rules. He could get rid of rules like the filibuster, like the blue slip process. He could quite literally change the dynamic and force the Senate into getting business done. Mike Lee is proposing that J.D. Vance do exactly that, and he could do it in order to get the Save America Act passed and perhaps whatever else it is the administration wants to see fulfilled. Let's take a listen.
Mike, is there any procedure that allows J.D. Vance to take the leadership role?
J.D. Vance can come to the Senate anytime he wants and immediately assume the position, the presiding officer chair. There is, I've long believed, significant and underutilized authority that comes with sitting in that chair. Just the ability to call the shots from moment to moment, to make procedural rulings upon receiving, but not necessarily always guided by the advice of the parliamentarian. The presiding officer, especially if the vice president, can do what he wants. But I would certainly welcome the vice president coming to do that. And I would also welcome each and every Republican senator weighing in on this and encouraging Senate Republicans to do the right thing. Look, I don't want to speak for anyone else. I don't want to put words into any senator's mouth. It is not my place to do that. But I will say this. I do think that John Thune wants to win the November elections. I do think he wants to keep both chambers of Congress in Republican hands. And based on my most recent conversations with him, including last night, I think he gets the fact that we can't get on this bill and immediately start heading to cloture. Let's continue to encourage him to prolong debate on this as long as it takes to get it passed.
I don't trust John Thune. I think that John Thune's plan is to bring the SAVE Act to the floor and then let it die, because everybody who's talking about it is talking about the fact that they don't have the votes. John Thune is not interested in getting the votes. He's interested in presenting a pantomime to the American people and to President Trump. I don't think that John Thune is going to do the work that is necessary, and I think that he's just going to allow it to fail, likely, unless they can convince him to allow the filibuster to be used, the standing filibuster, so that people have to talk rather than just being quiet. And that may take some work. It may take some threats from President Trump, or it may take the input of somebody like J.D. Vance, who I think does want this to pass in the same way that President Trump does. Lee Walden says, who would have thunk it? J.D. the discombobulator. That would be awesome. All right. I saw someone also say that I should talk to the guy at howtohunt.com. I actually know this channel. He's got this video from like 5 years ago, which is his grandfather's Sasquatch story. So, yeah, that would be cool. I would totally talk to him. I love Bigfoot stories. Unchained One says, that's not a library. It's built like a data center, cooling tower floor plan. Yeah, I think that it is probably not what they have built it to be. All right, now, speaking of rhinos, John Cornyn was confronted in the halls of the Senate building, and he was asked why should President Trump endorse him when John Cornyn has stated on numerous occasions that he's not in favor of President Trump's agenda. He's also been in favor of things like mass amnesty. But when he was confronted about this, he completely lost his shit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the clip, because I thought that it was pretty brilliant.
What do you have to say to the Americans who are questioning why President Trump should endorse you when many say that you've been vehemently against his agenda?
Do you speak for all these Americans? I don't understand.
Yeah, actually, I do.
Yeah.
Many people are asking this question. Do you have a response? I mean, you've been borderline pro-amnesty, red flag laws.
Are you being paid?
Anti-border
Are you
law?
being paid by the Paxton campaign?
No, I'm just a concerned American citizen representing millions of other Americans.
No, I think you're a paid influencer, because none of that's true, and you know it.
Okay.
Not true. It's actually true. What he says is not true. It is totally true. The fact that John Cornyn cannot back up his record to anybody who asks him about it tells you everything you need to know. Right now, John Cornyn has not received an endorsement from President Trump because if Ken Paxton stays in the race, the National Republican Senatorial Committee is going to have to dump many tens of millions of dollars into this race, and he still might not win. Ken Paxton is going to kick his ass in the runoff. So he, when you look at his record, is also one of the most liberal members of Congress. For months, Him and his senior campaign staff have been boasting that Cornyn actually votes against Trump 99% of the he's been trying to gaslight people and say that he votes with Trump 99% of the time. But the truth of the matter is he has voted against Trump at least 1/3 of the time. He has repeatedly compromised with Democrats on things that are bad objectively for Americans. He's pushed gun control legislation. He has supported mass amnesty. He sends billions of your taxpayer dollars to Ukraine. And now that he's facing this primary challenge, suddenly he wants everybody to believe that he is 100% MAGA. He is America first. He also had the audacity to call Wesley Hunt a fake MAGA. And with that record that he's got there, it's pretty laughable that he would call anybody fake MAGA. Shows just how disconnected Cornyn is from the people that he allegedly represents. He's truly aligned with the Washington establishment, and that's why people in Texas are not voting for him. He is not someone that President Trump can trust. And the only reason that John Cornyn might get an endorsement from President Trump is if he is instrumental in helping to get the SAVE Act passed. But I don't even think he has the stomach to do that. So I see Ken Paxton staying in the race, and I see Ken Paxton becoming the next senator for Texas. Let me say thank you very much to Eleanor 2000. Honored to contribute to Zach and Lisa's steak and lobster dinner tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I will take her out for a surf and turf. A8 Ball says, do you support the SAA, which makes Real ID mandatory? That is part of the electronic ID, which was the CCP backbones, that the social credit scoring system on. You don't want a social... No, I don't want a social credit system. Real ID is already mandatory, so I don't have any particular thought on it other than the Real ID is essentially... Well, I don't need to show you my driver's license, but... Real ID proves your citizenship, so I don't have to get a passport if we pass voter ID, and that goes through. The only thing that I support is having your identification show that you are a citizen of the United States. But the fact that people are talking about Real ID being connected to some social credit score system, I don't know that to be the case, and I've heard people suggest that, but I have never had somebody make the case for it and give me evidence to that. If that's the case, then obviously I'm not for that. But at the end of the day, Real ID has already been passed, and this is an issue that people have been really worried about for a long time, and up until this point, it hasn't materialized as any of the sort of major scary things that people said that it was going to do. So, but no, of course, I'm not in favor of a social credit score system. I'm not in favor of that at all. Okay, so next. Caught in broad daylight. This is a ballot harvesting operation that was caught on camera very recently in California. Gabriel Blow says, onward for surf and turf. Thanks, Zach. Thank you for that. I do appreciate you. Okay, so on Monday, a street journalist was walking through San Francisco, and he caught this ballot harvesting operation. Essentially, the video shows a line of people on 6th Street and Mission Street in this San Francisco neighborhood, and they are collecting signatures. So he walks up and basically determines that the people gathering the signatures are paying $5 for everyone to give a signature. So he says, hey, what's this line for? And he says, oh, they're giving $5 to sign a petition. And he says, wow, I can get $5? Cool, I'm going to stick around. So then when he goes up there, he's asking questions about it. And the woman's like, don't worry about what it is. Just sign it and we will pay you the $5. Take a look at this.
Excuse me. Hey, what's the line for?
For sign a petition. Shut up! Don't say nothing more. They get $5 to sign a petition.
They get $25?
$5.
$5. Okay. Would you have to have your ID?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
This is exactly why I would never go to San Francisco.
Never. I've never been so disrespectful in my life, man.
They laughing at you. You don't let them.
What do I need?
They laughing.
My bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just.
What is this?
Him? Right here? I don't know. Him. What name do you got? What name is that?
The Crocker.
Jeffrey Crocker. We'll be here. Come back. Yeah, you here. You only signed 2 of them so far, right?
Yeah, just scribble and have it.
He signed 2 of them?
Jeffrey, don't scribble.
He signed 2 of them.
Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna lie, keep getting mine, so.
It's gonna get
I get $5 too?
Yeah,
And what is it?
just sign it.
Just sign it?
Yeah. You ready now? First name is going to be Carol. Last name is Sanderson. This is the address right here. This is the city, Avila Beach. And this is the zip code. Hold it. So remember, first name is Carol. I get it. Yeah. I got you. Sign that here.
So $5 just to give us your name. But what the heck are they signing? So a local news station went in there and sat down watching people coming and going, putting their names on paper, nobody bothering to really inform the signers what it was they were putting their name down for. And according to a civil liberties attorney who watched the footage, it says it appears to show signature gatherers for ballot initiatives sponsored by a group called Building a Better California. So what is Building a Better California? It's an advocacy group with an association with a political action committee. They've got $35 million that they were given by Google co-founder Sergey Brin to start this organization. And also former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, a number of other billionaires were also involved. The group is speculated to have formed to combat a proposed wealth tax on billionaires in California. Although as of February 2026, Building a Better California was officially neutral on the issue. Of course, it's kind of a hot button issue. If you now say that you're against a wealth tax in California, then likely you'll be targeted by the commies who live there. A spokesperson for Building a Better California, woman by the name of Abby Lundari, spoke to the reporter via email and said that they were aware of the video and have contacted the signature gathering agency to reject any petitions from the circulator in that video. She emphasized, "We do not tolerate this or any other type of fraudulent activity in the signature gathering process." You see, when people sign a petition to get a measure on a ballot, they have to understand what it is they're signing. Obviously, what these people are doing is just going to a shithole neighborhood in San Francisco and finding as many junkies as they can and then giving them $5 for every signature they get on a petition. And I'll tell you, because I've worked with groups like this before, those people that are paying $5 for the signatures are going to get paid based upon how many signatures they gather. They have contests. They get bonuses. They obviously are getting an hourly wage. They're getting their meals paid for. The spokesperson, Miss Lenardi, Abby Lenardi, is described as the chief marketing officer for another company called Truity. It's a personality and career testing service, and she previously worked for the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. That's the group that put all of those ballot drop boxes everywhere. She was the chief communications and brand officer for the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They put $400 million into the 2020 election to, quote, fortify it. So this video shows people engaging in illegal activity. Ashley Zavala, who is the reporter for KCRA3 News, reported on this video and confirmed that the signature gatherings are looking to gain an initiative that is backed by billionaires fighting a proposed wealth tax. Now, another campaign that they were gathering signatures for was for a proposed Retirement and Personal Savings Protection Act. All 3 campaigns that were involved have acknowledged that their petitions are being carried by these particular signature gatherers. Also, these campaigns hire firms to gather signatures for anywhere between $15 to $17 per signature. However, she notes that they still don't know why those signature gatherers have voter information or where the extra money came from to pay the people to sign. You would probably think that they're not giving their $5 per signature out of their own money. Those $15 to $17 per signature that they're getting are going to be the money that they take home. And of course, they get bonuses, as I said. but somebody is putting up the $5 per signature. That's maybe going to be coming from perhaps a local Democrat organization or perhaps even from one of these billionaires that are funding the groups that they're working for. But the voter information, how they would have this tends to indicate that it must be politically connected as well, because they're not supposed to have that information. Signature gatherers go out, they literally just have the ballot initiative or the information about what they're asking people to sign for, and then they have a listing with, the signature, the information of where that person lives so they can verify what district they live in and if they're even eligible to sign for that petition initiative. So a lot of shady stuff going on in regards to this. Philly Pro says in that signature clip, she was giving him the name and address to sign the petition with. Yes, she was. So I don't know if she was assigning a name and an address to that guy or if she had the information that was registered on file for him. That's the thing that is kind of sketchy. If she is just giving people money to sign other people's names on there, that's a much bigger problem than simply making sure he's signing the correct information. Howard the Duck says, date night with Red Pill 78 wife. Thank you for great reporting. Been listening for years. Thank you so much. But yes, they were homeless, Diligent. That's the thing. But even though people are homeless, oftentimes they can still get themselves an ID or have an address that is associated with their name. Just because somebody's homeless right now doesn't mean they weren't homeless at some point in the past, or that they don't have an address which is simply listed at a local mission or something like that. Any way you slice it, this organization needs to be investigated, and any of those signatures should not be valid. All right, now, we need to check in here with Peter Bernegger. We've spoken a couple of times recently about HAVA complaints. HAVA complaints seem to have been the most successful avenue that private citizens have had, and groups like my friends at Unite for Freedom have had, to challenge illegal activity that is taking place in local, state, or federal elections. This story comes directly out of Hawaii. So Peter Bernegger has this HAVA complaint that he filed with the Hawaii Election Commission. And as a result of his complaint, they have been forced by the state's chief election officer to comply with federal election law as it applies to the Help America Vote Act. So he filed this complaint after discovering that Hawaii does not have a valid state plan implementing federal election law. That is a requirement under the Help America Vote Act. So the chief election officer is a man by the name of Scott Nago. He simply claimed that the plan was current. Well, the plan wasn't current because the plan didn't actually exist. So Scott Nago sent a letter to Peter Bernegger claiming that he himself, the chief election officer, had no jurisdiction to hear Peter Bernegger's complaint. That's also not the case. In result of that, Peter Bernegger filed a lawsuit in federal court. At the exact same time, he took this issue directly to the Hawaii Election Commission. Last night, there was a meeting, and the 9-member commission, which is made up of 5 Democrats and 4 Republicans, heard testimony from citizens of Hawaii, and the commissioner, Ralph Kushney, made a motion to force Mr. Nago to finally produce the legally required HAVA state plan. The motion passed, and then things got worse for the people who were fighting against Peter. There was another motion that passed, also ordering officials to count ballot envelopes from the Big Island. Well, in 2024, the election numbers had a couple of discrepancies. There were 76,000 mail ballots that were counted that went towards the vote count. The only problem is only 57,000 envelopes were recorded. For a mail-in ballot to be counted, it must arrive in an envelope. If you've got roughly 20,000 less envelopes than ballots you have on hand, then that's an indication maybe those 20,000 ballots might not be legitimate. So an inspector general has an investigation now open into Mr. Scott Nago for falsely certifying in writing to the Federal Election Assistance Commission that Hawaii's state plan for HAVA is current when in fact it is not, because it does not exist. So Mr. Nago is now in a bit of trouble. and things are moving in an interesting direction in Hawaii. I think that we're going to see this happening a lot more because this is not a way that people can be told they do not have standing. The whole reason that the Help America Vote Act exists is for things just like this. All right. Makes sense to me, too. Says, get you a slice of cheesecake after dinner. Well, thank you very much. I will do that. All right. Now, also jumping over to Maricopa County. Marissa Caldwell was an election observer at Maricopa County's tabulation facility for the small Tempe election where she was working. And she wrote down everything that she observed. And these things are not complete. This is not everything she observed, but it's a collection of some very disturbing things that took place in Maricopa County. She says she's got a much longer list of notes that she is going to report in a future post, but she said, I just wanted to put out some of my major concerns. So first of all, she and the other observers were not allowed at the BOS by the BOS election staff to observe the ballots that came in from the drop box. They were simply told that they were counted and reconciled, but there was no observation done by anyone to verify that fact. She also said that they were only allowed to see 3 ballot bins that came in from the in-person ballot replacement center. There was also a new supply chain process for the scanners where nothing is close to a standard that is actually implemented in the supply chain industry, meaning that there is a problem with chain of custody. She says it boggles my mind why the people in Maricopa County find it so hard to work properly, and they continue to defend seriously subpar practices. So, dear supervisors, please go tour real supply chain operations. For the love of all that is good, this is embarrassing. The process for showing ID on early ballots in person is clearly a very poor plan and woefully insufficient. It's set up to fail. Well, that sounds like exactly why they are doing it that way. So she wrote her observations up, and then that goes over to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and the Elections Department. Obviously, there are a lot of problems in Maricopa County. There is currently a fight that is going on between the Maricopa County Recorder, Justin Heap, and the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. Hopefully, all of that will be adjudicated prior to the implementation of the midterms in November. But at the rate that everything is going, we don't know for certain. However, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors did just lose in one aspect of their case. And it means that Justin Heap now has an advantage as this case moves forward. Thank you very much to Trump1, who says, Zach, do you remember when JR called you from Perrysburg during an event when he was running for District 9 here? I was there in the background. I do. I definitely do. No Thanks Joe says, thanks Lisa and Zach. Good Thursday to you both. Nice work as always. Love to see all the pundits continue to melt down every day. God bless and stay safe. And then Intolerant Leftist says, Vance as Senate leader could get Trump's nominees through as well. Yes, exactly. That was another aspect that I forgot to mention, but that would totally be something that could happen. Okay. All right, you guys. I have a very quick message from our friends over here on Rumble. Let me get that pulled up. All right, you guys, this is just a little scoop that a lot of creators are talking about behind the scenes over here on Rumble. It's one of the reasons that I'm using Rumble, a lot of other people as well. They've made a really easy way to super chat creators so they can get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch, if you know, they take up to 50% fees when you tip creators, and this method takes absolutely none. There is 0 platform fees. I keep 100% just about of what you send me. You can super chat using Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. And the tip then shows up directly on the Rumble chat with a message. I'll do my best to read it. I read all of them to you guys. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and then send your tips to your favorite creators. You can also visit wallet.rumble.com, or you just download that app directly from the App Store on your device. It's an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and to help out the creator economy and to support people that you believe in. So shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. There should be a link in the chat as well. Thank you so much to Rumble. Appreciate you guys. All right. Next. All right. I talked about this a little bit on Taking It Back, and I wanted to give people some perspective. You know, I've said on many different occasions, one of the reasons I am so optimistic about the direction the country is going, about the moves that the administration is making, is because I've witnessed the sort of slow evolution in the wrong direction of politics in this country. I've been paying attention to politics and current events since I was really little. Now, I was paying attention to politics before I even was, really red-pilled on a lot of this stuff. And I have seen the sort of evolution of these parties. And, I think back to, when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House and that contract with America and the sort of conservative ideals that they were trying to pass, welfare reform and just so many other things. And it never got any better. It became more and more obvious every single year that the differences between Republicans and Democrats, there really weren't all that many of them. It was a power sharing agreement where they would just trade the baton back and forth, and they might say one thing to their base. They might give some sound bites to the mainstream media. But when it came down to it, they were all voting for the same thing, which was ultimately the destruction of America and the disenfranchisement of the American people. So social issues that were previously strongly held by the Republican Party kind of faded away. Everybody became varying degrees of farther and farther to the left. And this person on X pretty much summed it up in a really spectacular way. So they say, for those of you on the right who are critical of Trump, you have to understand what the state of this country was and the GOP looked like before 2016. So if you go back to then, Ted Cruz was as far to the right as you could go. Ted Cruz started out as a Tea Party Republican, right? And how long did it take Ted Cruz to essentially get cucked as soon as he got to Washington? It didn't take long at all. So Ted Cruz was the right wing. Mitt Romney was like centerline GOP. Hated Mitt Romney. He was such a wet noodle. And there was a large and growing minority of the party's top politicians who were basically at that time pushing to give amnesty to illegal aliens. John Cornyn wasn't the only one. They just wanted to hand out citizenship like it was candy. They're like, well, they're already here. What are we going to do? We can't get rid of them, so we might as well just make them citizens. That never sat right with me. After 2012, to a lot of people, they felt like Republicans were never going to win an election again. Barack Obama came in and he solidified his power. And he was not the arbiter of hope and change. He did not accomplish the goals that he said he was going to accomplish. He didn't heal the country. It was a psyop from the very beginning. And you look at some of the states now that are Republican strongholds. They were flirting with, Texas becoming blue. Ohio and Florida were basically battleground states. The Electoral College pretty much rigged against Republicans. Romney came closer to winning the popular vote than he did the Electoral College in 2012. And if you were on the right in any capacity between 2008 and 2016, it felt like the world was dying. I can tell you that's exactly how I felt. When Barack Obama got elected, I felt like there was absolutely no hope. I felt, well, you know what? They've done it. They have successfully taken over, and they will never allow anyone of substance to be elected in any office that will have meaningful opportunity to truly change this system. And at the emergence of the Great Awakening between 2013 and 2014, when all of the trans stuff and the radical left-wing social issues really started to take over in America, I think that a lot of people were pretty disenfranchised. So then came President Trump. And the reason that I loved President Trump was because he was not a politician. And it was like he walked in with a sledgehammer and he was just going to smash the system to bits, to tear down all of the bullshit that they had stuffed down our throats. He was saying the things that I believed. He was talking about running America as a business. He was talking about the people that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton had shat all over throughout their time in politics, the people that they derided, that they dismissed. the Bible-clutching, gun-loving hicks of America. Donald Trump was talking about us. He was talking about making America great again for us. And I thought, my God, this is what we need. This is what can make me believe in the beauty and the power and the majesty of what America can be. And that's why I committed myself to vote for Donald Trump. So the average normie Republican is incredibly loyal to Trump because they see him as this seismic force, the only thing in the system that has ever punched back at the forces within Washington, D.C. that sought to destroy us. Now, obviously, he's not perfect. And obviously, he doesn't make every decision that every single person wants him to make. And, you know, there are things that you can choose to criticize him for. I will never tell you that you can't. But when Donald Trump came along, the world looked bleak. And the entirety of his first term, they fought against him hard. They tried to destroy him. There was a grand conspiracy to deep six his presidency. Of course, the entirety of the mainstream media worked against him. We were demonized for believing in him, for loving him. We were told that making America great again was a bad phrase. It was racist. It was misogynistic. It was nationalistic. You were a Nazi if you believed in America first. And for the people who believed that the world was not capable of being saved after the Obama years, for Donald Trump to come around and turn that around, it was like a shot in the arm. It was a complete reversal of everything that had come before him. And then when they stole him from us in 2020 and Joe Biden came into power, immediately attempting to reverse everything that Donald Trump did, a lot of people lost hope again. But then Donald Trump came back, and now here he is. And he's working to do everything he said he was going to do before, but he's also working to right all of the wrongs across the entire world so that America can ultimately be safe, secure, and prosperous for the years after he's gone. He's setting up the next generation of political leaders who will, praise God, please follow in his footsteps and not become the cucked Republican leaders that we had previously. Donald Trump is also righting the wrongs of every prior political administration that came before him. Okay, and so for the people who perhaps voted for Trump, but maybe are disenfranchised with anything that he's done, I just want you to consider the totality of the problems that he inherited, not only in his first administration, but also in his second administration, and the work that he did during that shadow administration, the 4 years that Joe Biden was living in the White House. Think about it. Just think about it. And see what has been accomplished in these brief months since he came back. So there is a lot of work to do. And I believe in Donald Trump, but he is not going to be here forever. And in order for America to continue on being successful and to solve all of the problems that past administrations have hoisted upon us, we're going back 100 years or more, okay? More than 100 years. We're going back to the Civil War, basically. Everything that they've done has gradually led us to the point that Barack Obama came on the scene and nearly destroyed America. And Donald Trump, in that short amount of time, has reversed course in a profound way. So that's why I have so much optimism and hope, because I understand how big of a job this is. I understand how much damage was done. I understand how corrupt the system is. And I think that what he's doing is brilliant. And so I really appreciate him. Thank you to Warrior Mima, who says, did somebody say dinner? Thank you for that. Patrick D35 says, KC-135 refueler down in Iraq with 6 crew members. Status unknown. It wasn't shot down. Had an incident with another aircraft, which landed safely. Oh, that's awful. Okay. Well, keep them in your prayers. Definitely. I'm one great FL. Says, grab some grub and keep on pilling. Big thanks, Zach and Lisa. Thank you for that. Also, Jim Kyle, for dinner with your beautiful wife. Thank you so much, Jim. I really do appreciate you. All right. Also, Mayatua, thank you for the shades. I appreciate it. All right. Now, I also made mention of this in the introduction. Apparently, back in November, 4 military drones were stolen from Fort Campbell in Kentucky. This was announced just recently on March 11th. Happened at U.S. Army Fort Campbell. They put it out on their Facebook page. A spokesperson for the Fort Campbell wrote that 4 Skydio X-10D drones were stolen from the 326th Division Engineer Battalion building. These are the suspects that came in and stole them. All right, one guy doesn't have his face covered. The other guy does have his face covered. They look like high school students. I mean, they look like young men. But these are not just any drones. It's not like these guys just came in and took some DJI drones. These are like top of the line military AI controlled drones. Now, in order for people to get onto Fort Campbell to take these drones, they must have had help, or they must somehow have access to Fort Campbell, because you can't just walk into Fort Campbell, especially walking around with your face covered like this, not even wearing military attire. I don't believe that these guys are military. But the Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division is offering a reward for information that leads to the conviction of these people. But it's been November since this actually took place. I don't know why they're announcing it now. It's a $5,000 reward. These drone systems were last seen on the morning of November 21st, 2025 at the 326th. This is in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Between November 21st and November 24th, unknown persons unlawfully gained access to Building 6955 and took them. Individuals with credible information concerning this incident are encouraged to contact Army CID. So, this is a pretty big deal. And I'm kind of flabbergasted that it happened. But again, I think the only way it could have happened is if these guys had some type of inside help to be able to gain access and take off with them. So this is actually a video of one of those drones, so we can see some of its capabilities.
And so we're out here at range 132 at Grafenveer, and we had 10 planned drops.
Oh, yeah. Eric, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was an inside job, but I don't think that those guys were military. They're not dressed like military. They don't really, that one guy was kind of chubby. They don't carry themselves like military. I think that likely this is probably an Antifa job, and they have maybe one or more people who identify with them. Maybe they're commies and they join the army so they could gain access to this stuff. This is definitely an inside job, but they've got people from the outside coming in.
Our first test was a success. It was the first live ordnance drop from a small UAS. For a conventional army, that's a big step for 7th APC, 173rd, who we partnered with in JMPG, the unit that I'm in. So we were able to conduct the first test, very successful, and then we'll continue with follow-on tests and hopefully provide that information back to the Army enterprise.
The Joint Multinational Training Group, we do a lot of things. We have teams that...
Yes, under Joe Biden's watch. No, it wouldn't have been under Joe Biden's watch because it was 2025. If this was November of 2024, it would have been under Joe Biden's watch. So, this was, a year after Donald Trump was elected. So I could totally see it being an inside job to gain access to these drones so that they could be used to perhaps, commit an assassination or something like that. As you can see, these things are designed to drop a grenade or some type of explosive ordnance.
Support in different ways. We have an innovation team, which is here right now. But today, they're working with a couple of different UAVs. They're using...
So how did they get past the gate? I'm going to suggest that they didn't come in through the gate, that they probably came in perhaps through a fence that they cut, or maybe they scaled. It would mean if they didn't have help from people on the inside, it would mean that they had likely surveilled the base for a period of time so that they could see when a weak point in security surveillance was. They could easily come up and, cut the fence. If they knew exactly where they were going, then they could come in very quickly, grab it, and leave. I used to live near a, it was like a depot where the National Guard kept weapons and vehicles and stuff like that when I was a kid. And I remember when I was a kid, I had some friends who snuck in one night on the weekend, and they got caught. It didn't take them very long, but they got caught. And a National Guardsman rounds a corner, and these kids are standing there, and he was like, "You dumb little shits. You almost just got killed." So in order for them to get in and get out, they must have known what the rotation was. If they had come in through the gate, then there would be some proof of their identity or a record of the fact that they had come in. Or if they came in through the gate and there is no record, then that means the person who is at the gate is the person who's working with them. Considering that this happened back in November, if that was the case, you would imagine that every single person on that base has already been questioned, and they would be questioned intensely. So now that they're going to the public for this leads me to believe that they haven't been able to find any information.
Different UAVs, one to actually conduct the operation, and others to observe as well as to intercept, just in case we have any situations that arise. In addition to that, there's other equipment that they're using as far as how to drop. We're doing live drops right now. We're doing M67 fragmentation grenades. So with those pieces of equipment, the good thing about it is with the innovation team, they've learned how to adapt it, how to actually.
So this drone in the hands of bad actors is not a very good thing. The stolen drones, the report on these stolen drones came about 24 hours before ABC News reported that the FBI had released a bulletin warning California police departments that Iran may try to attack with drones dropping grenades or explosives or something like that. What's interesting about it is that you then had the White House pretty much immediately come out and say that this is not true, retract your story. California is not in danger of being attacked by any drones of this type. We do have a local news report on it as well, which may offer just a little bit.
The course that MIT.
Little bit more information. No, I'm sorry. Here it is. Here it is. Looks like also some rifles were stolen. I think this is all Antifa. This is in Nashville.
At 6:01, new pictures are in from a brazen robbery at a gun store in Belmead this morning. Detectives say these are the people they're looking for. They didn't smash through the front door. Take a look. They drove into the Outpost Armory on Harding Pike around 3 a.m. and a Kia Soul stole 6 AR-15 rifles. They believe 2 kids under 18 were involved, and they got away in a white sedan. Now, Metro Nashville police keep track of where firearms are stolen across the city. Here's their data. You can find it on.
Lots of stolen firearms in Nashville. Yeah. So this could be connected, or it could just be a couple of hood rats that are doing the same thing. But the fact that anybody is doing this is certainly concerning. Now, President Trump also made an interesting comment. There has been a lot of talk about Iranian sleeper cells. We've talked about it here a couple of times. If you go back, there was a podcast that Sean Ryan did with a woman who she was like a CIA asset or agent or something like that. Sarah something or other. I can't remember her names. But she had said that there were Iranian or Islamic sleeper cells that were, that were basically waiting to be activated all across the United States. Now, President Trump said that he actually knows, or the United States government knows, where all these Iranian sleeper cells are here in the United States. So he was asked, have you been briefed about any Iranian sleeper cells that could be here in the U.S.? And President Trump said, I have been. And a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border, but we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think. They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country, and we've got our eyes on all of it. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch. Now, if you also go back to the Biden years, there were a number of different instances of people with known terrorist affiliation, ISIS membership, Al-Qaeda, etc., who were known to have come through the southern border. We've had a couple of incidents with them recently. This incident today at Old Dominion University also appears to be somehow related to ISIS. And take a look at this. So the gunman is dead. He opened fire at Old Dominion in Norfolk, Virginia. The police got there. 2 people were injured. I believe 1 person is deceased, but let's take a listen.
This is in Virginia, and this is Old Dominion University. Police cars there you can see gathered. A gunman is dead after injuring 2 people at Old Dominion University, according to officials there at the school. A gunman opened fire in Constant Hall at about 10:50 a.m. East Coast time. And officials are saying 2 people were hurt as a result. We do not know what their conditions medically are right now. This is the information we're getting in right now. And you're looking again, this is live from Virginia, Old Dominion University, and the cordon of police officers.
All right, so it didn't take long for that individual to be killed. Before I tell you who the assailant was, I want to play for you the local Commonwealth attorney speaking about why this happened. He blames it on the so-called cult of gun absolution. So people who are proponents of the Second Amendment, which is a founding tenet of the United States of America.
It's a national sickness. We live in a country where people care more about guns than they care about 6-year-old children. They care more about guns than they care about synagogue worshipers. And they care more about guns than they do about college students. What that means is that it does not matter how hard President Campbell works, how hard the chiefs work, somebody will be a victim eventually. It is a matter of time. And until there is the political will to break the spell of the cult of gun absolutism, you will see more incidents like this. So if you're looking for somebody to blame, don't look at anybody up here. Look at our lawmakers who don't have the courage to implement sensible gun control measures. Look to a Supreme Court that enables them, and do something about it. So that is the lesson. Let's mourn the people who have died. Let's decry what has happened, but let's keep the focus where it belongs.
All right, so this guy, Ramin Fatehi, or however you, Fatehi, however you pronounce it, he is a Soros-funded Commonwealth attorney, kind of like a district attorney. So not surprising that he would blame gun ownership on the use of guns to kill people. The only problem is he says don't blame anybody up here. He's a prosecutor. Guess who the assailant was? This is an Old Dominion University student commenting on who the shooter was.
Was the shooter? Did they describe those people at all?
The description of the shooter, they said he was a Muslim man. I know he was a student at ODU.
He was a Muslim. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so he was a Muslim, but which Muslim was he? Well, guess what? His name was Mohammed Jalla. Does that name sound familiar to you guys? He was a former Army National Guardsman. He was arrested back in 2016 for providing material support to ISIS. He's already been convicted of being an ISIS supporter. He traveled out of the United States on multiple occasions. He's also an immigrant from Sierra Leone. He came here, became a U.S. citizen, became an Army National Guardsman, and then became a supporter of ISIS. Traveled outside of the United States on multiple occasions. He did go to federal prison. He was released in 2024. He's a felon, so he does not have the legal right to own guns. So this is, again, not about gun ownership. This is about criminals gaining access to guns illegally and then using them to shoot. And even in a larger sense, it's about the Islamicization, the radical Islamicism that is present here in the United States. We just had this attack in New York last weekend, which was unsuccessful. Those kids who were also ISIS supporters attempted to light two IEDs, and their intention was to kill multiple people. Now, in this video, first of all, this is Mohammed Jalla when he was still alive, when he was a guardsman, but he was dispatched pretty quickly, and he was not killed by police. He was actually stabbed to death by somebody there who was right there while he was shooting people. But This is the press release from 2016 from the DOJ. Mohammed Baylor Jallah, a former member of the Army National Guard, arrested July 3rd for attempting to provide material support to the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, back when they were still ISIL, before they, before they changed it to ISIS. Now, according to the complaint, Jallah is alleged to have attempted to provide services by assisting in the procurement of weapons to be used in what he believed was going to be an attack on U.S. soil committed by ISIL. In addition, the complaint alleges that Jallah attempted to provide material support by providing money to assist in the facilitation of individuals who might join ISIL. Essentially, they prosecuted him. He met with a confidential human source on multiple occasions during those meetings. While he was still a member of the Army National Guard, he decided that he was going to quit after listening to an online lecture of Anwar al-Awlaki, who was the leader of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. He then stated that he was taking a 6-month trip to Africa. During that trip, he met with several ISIL members in Nigeria and began online communications with them. During that meeting, he also told the confidential human source he had thought about himself committing an attack here in the United States, and he thought that it would be better if he did it during the month of Ramadan. He then asked the CHS if they could assist him in providing a donation to ISIL. Ultimately, he provided a prepaid cash transfer of $500 to a contact, somebody who he believed was a member of ISIL, but was actually an undercover FBI employee. So in June of 2016, he traveled to North Carolina, made several unsuccessful attempts to buy firearms. On July 2nd, he went to a gun dealer in Northern Virginia where he purchased and tested a Stag Arms rifle. Unbeknownst to Jallah, the rifle was rendered inoperable before he left the dealership with the weapon, and then he was arrested by the FBI the following day and was then prosecuted and sent to prison. So he was in prison until 2024. He was a known ISIS supporter. He had traveled around the world. Why the hell did they allow him out of prison? Why did they let him go? That's the reason that he was able to go and ultimately fulfill his childhood dream of committing an attack in honor of ISIS. 1 second, let me just get rid of all this stuff that is distracting me. So, he killed a retired military officer earlier today during an ROTC class. At this point, Jallah was 36 years old. He stormed into a classroom inside one of the halls where the ROTC class was taking place. When someone confirmed that it was, he launched this suspected terror attack. He shot the professor several times. One of the ROTC cadets jumped into action, and he stabbed Jallah to death after this gunman attempted to shoot more people inside the classroom. So here he is at one of his trips around the world. This could have been much, much worse. It's tragic that anyone died, but it was totally foreseeable and completely avoidable. He never should have been allowed out of prison. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison, so it looks like he got out just a little bit early. They should have denaturalized him and sent him back to Sierra Leone if they were going to let him out of prison. And he never, ever, ever should have been able to get into this situation here today. So that's the problem. It's not that people own guns. Now, real quick here, Lee Walden says it's possible that they were vendors and they were able to gain access over the weekend. Possible, but if they were vendors, then again, there would be a record of them coming into the fort, right? I mean, wouldn't there be? Mimi to Boys X2 says, dinner for the bestest out there and his beautiful wife. Thank you so much, Mimi. And also, thank you very much to Meatua. I already said that one. Okay, no problem. All right, you guys. Now, John Fetterman, I'm not going to read this one because this is just a clip. All right, this goes more into what we talked about earlier this week. So, speaking of terrorism, Norway police have now arrested 3 suspects they believe to be responsible for the attack on the U.S. embassy in Norway that took place just a couple of days ago. We had the pictures of what looked to be 2 people who were approaching the embassy, and there was an explosive device that was set off. So the police have now apprehended 3 brothers that are suspected of carrying out the bombing on Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip here explaining the arrest and the probe.
Norwegian police has arrested 3 brothers, all Iraqi origin citizens. This is after a powerful explosion rocked the U.S. Embassy in Oslo over the weekend.
Of course, no one was hurt in that explosion.
Blast occurred early on Sunday morning at the entrance to the embassy's consular section, causing damage but no injuries. It was being probed for a terrorist attack. Police have now described the incident as a suspected terrorist bombing. Investigators believe that one of the brothers who placed the bomb outside the embassy and the other 2 assisted him. According to reports, the lawyer of one of the suspects has admitted his involvement in placing the bomb.
The police arrested 3 brothers.
Somebody asked about EasyRx. I'm not sponsored by EasyRx, but you could use farmeasybank.com. No, use quickrxstore.com and use the code GET10. quickrxstore.com, code GET10.
Residing in Oslo, all of whom are now charged with violating Section 138 of the Penal Code. This concerns terrorist bombing. We believe that one of them is the person who placed the bomb outside the embassy and that the other 2 were involved in this act. All 3 are Norwegian citizens of Iraqi origin.
Officials are examining whether the attack may have been directed by a foreign government or linked to a criminal network, given the sensitive target. They are investigating CCTV footage of the incident on Monday. Police released 2 surveillance images showing a suspect dressed in dark clothing, wearing a hood and carrying a backpack.
We are still working on several hypotheses. One of them is whether this is an order from a government entity. This is quite natural given the target of the act, the American embassy, and the current global security situation. It may also be linked to criminal networks.
So considering that they're Iraqi, it's more likely that they may be part of a criminal network operating in Norway who just happen to have some animosity towards the United States because they are Muslim. But these individuals, to my knowledge, have not been identified yet. And because the arrest has just happened so recently, there is not a lot of information available. Although the fact that they're brothers seems to more likely indicate that they may be immigrants to Norway. Because obviously you have large family groups of people who come to places like Norway, just like they come to the United States. And of course, who are you going to trust but people in your family? There would be all kinds of reasons why they might want to engage in a bombing of this type. Certainly, hatred of the United States would be top among them. All right. Now, next, we also had an incident at Reagan National Airport. Apparently, the airport was evacuated because a suspicious package was discovered. However, that package was cleared, so flights began again early this morning, and it was really just a nothing burger. People being very careful about what they saw. Lee Walden says your beautiful oratory presents a shared experience of feelings about President Trump was spectacular, and that's why the promises of America is still within reach. God's gift, brother. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate you, buddy. All right, now we also have yet another tale of transgender murder. This time, thank God, only attempted murder. Now, they say it's 2 teenage girls, but they're not exactly 2 teenage girls. I'm not really certain which one is which. You've got Isabel Aurelia Valdez. Court documents and police reports identify that one as transgender, goes by the name of Jimmy, allegedly stalked a victim for several months because he reminded her of Adam Lanza. Now, the whole point of killing this person, because they reminded them of Adam Lanza, is that they believed they were going to resurrect the long-departed soul of Adam Lanza. Adam Lanza of course, Sandy Hook fame in Newtown, Connecticut. According to Altamont Springs police reports and court filings, Valdez planned to lure this boy into an upstairs bathroom during the second period of classes, push him into a stall, slash his throat or stab him in the stomach, drink his blood, place flowers on his body, and then I believe they said they also wanted to smoke a cigarette. Valdez is said to have believed that this act would create a blood bond that would resurrect Adam Lanza. The 14-year-old best friend, Lois Lippert, allegedly helped by bringing flowers to school and then sharpening a knife in the bathroom. They also got all of the materials they would need, bags, wipes, cigarettes, a lighter, and, of course, gloves to keep the blood off of their hands. Luckily, they were busted when an anonymous tip was submitted through a safety tip line back in January. The next morning, January 23rd, school officials and police pulled both of the girls out of their classes. Valdez quickly handed over her backpack, which contained the large knife and a number of other preparatory items they were planning to use for the murder, along with a handwritten note she had already prepared for her parents. In the note, Valdez wrote, "Dear Mama and Papa, I'm sorry for what I'm going to do. Hopefully you will find this paper. I want you guys to know that none of this is your fault. Adam Lanza wanted it. I think it's a fair and beautiful scene of devotion on my behalf." This is obviously very unhinged, also very 21st century. Kind of reminds me of those young girls that attempted to kill their friend several years ago because they believed that the Slender Man wanted them to do it. Of course, the Slender Man isn't real. That's like some internet copy pasta stuff. But during this investigation, law enforcement found that Valdez had posted photos of this victim on a TikTok account, and the name of that TikTok account was I Love Sandy Hook. And they were already on the FBI's radar because the account had made prior threats at the school. Valdez also mentioned that she hated people and she called herself and others disgusting. After the arrest, the girls were placed together in the back of a patrol car where their conversation was recorded without their knowledge. We are going to listen to that. It's pretty disturbing. They joked around about the fact that they almost got away with murder and what their mugshots would look like, how much time they might spend in prison, and probably whether or not they were going to be famous. Valdez told Lippert that she was going to use makeup this morning for her mugshot, but she couldn't find anything. "It's over," Lippert said. "Yeah, it's over. It doesn't matter if you look good or not." They also discussed getting a minimum of 4 years. They laughed about the fact that they were about to perform a blood ritual to resurrect the soul of Adam Lanza, talked about spreading their story in the true crime community, wondering what the videos about them might look like. They expressed hopes of maybe being sent to a psych ward rather than prison. And then Valdez also said, "You know what? I should have just done it this morning. He was right there. I was following behind him." As you know, these are both teenage girls, but they are going to be charged as adults. So it may not be as cut and dry for them as they had hoped it would be. Where is the video? Well, hold on just a second. Let me go to X, and we will watch the video. Where is her name? Isabel Aurelia Valdez. Okay. This is freaking wild. And it just goes to show you that we have a major, major problem in America with mental health among our youth.
Wait, they went to his phone? No, they're going to go to his phone. Oh my god. Hey, what are you doing here? No, he's gonna be arrested too. What? Why? Yes, I told him he knew. He didn't report me. I told him already. He did a tip?
There was a tip. There was a tip shown. Did you not see it? Someone tipped.
He fucking snitched.
I don't get why he wouldn't tell the police that he did a tip though.
Huh?
The police, he did a tip though. Because it was anonymous tip. But I was just assuming it was by the writing.
Yeah.
Just like
it was.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking god. But I knew I shouldn't have told him. Because he was like, "Oh, can you please tell me I can't sleep tonight?" Fuck you! God!
All right, and that's pretty much how it goes for the next 5 minutes or so. They have no concept that they have just destroyed their lives. They also seem to have absolutely no regard for the fact that they were planning to just take someone's life. White 1CO says, Zach, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch Kathleen Madigan's comedy bit called Hunting Bigfoot. I haven't seen it, but I'll go ahead and check it out. Hang on, let me write that down. Kathleen Madigan Hunting Bigfoot. Okay, I'll check it out. All right, now, did you know that John Durham was planning to bring criminal charges against Democrat lawyer Hillary Clinton and the DNC's former pit bull, Mark Elias? Well, apparently, that investigation was, as we know, shut down during the Biden administration, and there was enough evidence for Mark Elias to be charged. Of course, this was in relation to his connection to Michael Sussman. Michael Sussman, of course, did have charges brought against him, but the corrupt D.C. jury pool essentially found him not guilty, even though, from my perspective, the evidence was overwhelming. I think that may have also had something to do with why John Durham didn't bother to bring any more indictments, because, of course, every single one of those cases would have been tried in the District of Columbia, and it's pretty clear that if you are politically connected in Washington, D.C., and you commit a crime, you're not going to be held accountable, unless, of course, you're connected to President Trump or anyone surrounding him. So Mark Elias, in my opinion, could still be tried, should still be tried as part of the grand conspiracy investigation. It's currently taking place down here in Florida. It's a little different now that it's a RICO investigation. And who knows? Mark Elias may be one of those people who gets called in. Now, Mark Elias is back on Svetlana Lakova's radar because he retweeted a video of Harmeet Dillon speaking about the obstructionist efforts of people like him. And, of course, his big thing is still trying to stop any sort of checks or balances being done on voter registration rolls or any efforts to keep our elections safe and secure. So let's hear from Harmeet Dillon on this.
States. And, you know, what's happened in the past, you may ask, why don't states clean it up themselves? Well, sometimes it's just inefficiency, but more times it's actually states wanting to clean up their voter rolls, and the Mark Eliases of the world and even the DOJ suing them to stop them from cleaning up their own voter rolls. And so, you know, I don't blame states in a way because it's whiplash. You know, suddenly the federal government is saying, please do your jobs. Right. A year ago, they were saying, don't do your jobs. Yeah. And clean state.
So, yeah, it is a bit of mixed messaging. But because of people like Mark Elias coming in and making people's lives difficult, so many people don't have the will to do what's right. We're at a unique juncture in history where the cleaning up of our voter rolls must happen. So many efforts need to be undertaken to ensure that our elections are safe and secure. Along with that, we still need to hold many people accountable. Leticia James being one of those people. And the reason I'm mentioning her is because I believe that she was also part of that grand conspiracy. There was already an attempt in the Eastern District of Virginia to bring her to justice, but of course we had all of the issues with the appointment of Lindsay Halligan and the indictments that were brought. The corrupt judges in that area decided that Lindsay's appointment was not valid. We have massive overreach among the judiciary stepping in and essentially thwarting the executive branch from doing their job, President Trump from doing his job. And then, of course, we have the problems with the Senate refusing to confirm the people that President Trump has put forward. If it wasn't for the Senate, then we would have had an attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. We would have one in New Jersey. We would have one in every single place where currently nobody is running those offices. Another great reason for J.D. Vance to come in and just take the gavel. So the reason that Leticia James is coming up today is because Michael Cohen has written a Substack post where he claims something that, frankly, I assumed many years ago, that he was coerced to essentially turn on President Trump. I mean, up until Michael Cohen was arrested and he was then used as a cudgel to bludgeon President Trump, he had been one of President Trump's closest confidants in terms of, taking care of business for him. He was a bit of a fixer. Obviously, they used Michael Cohen in the Stormy Daniels affair. But Michael Cohen has now come out and said that if it wasn't for the fact that Leticia James and her office had coerced him to testify against President Trump, he never would have done that. So this 25-page filing by the Trump administration is a request for the office of Leticia James and the New York Attorney General's office to provide all communications between Michael Cohen and the New York Attorney General Leticia James and anyone else in her office. The filing comes about a month before President Trump's team is due to file a brief with the New York State Court of Appeals in response to Leticia James' request for that $500 million civil fraud penalty against the president that was actually thrown out last August. She is trying to get it reinstated. She sees a big pile of money and an opportunity to damage the president, so she's going to go for it. The president's legal team called for an order requiring the production of all records of all communications between Michael D. Cohen and the Democratic AG and her staff, including transcript interviews, notes, emails, letters, and recordings. The only problem here is that it would be very easy for Leticia James' office to walk into a holding room where Michael Cohen is being questioned, turn off the cameras, turn off the recorder, and say, I'm just going to tell you what you need to do if you want to stay out of prison for the next 2 decades. And then turn the tapes back on and say, now tell me again what President Trump did that was so illegal. But the attorneys noted that Michael Cohen's testimony is the very heart of the New York Attorney General's case. This is what prompted Leticia James's office to launch this politically charged investigation into President Trump, into his family, into his businesses. And they explain in the filing that Cohen's alleged communications with Leticia James's office are vital because they can use that to decide whether to file a motion to vacate the judgment. The defendants further demanded an order forcing Leticia James to confirm that the New York Attorney General's office has taken necessary steps to preserve all Cohen records until the conclusion of litigation related to this civil fraud case. Now, in regards to the Substack that was written by Michael Cohen, it came out in January. And in the Substack, he directly accuses Leticia James as well as Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg of forcing him to testify against President Trump in the civil fraud case and the hush money cases, which are now in various stages of litigation. He said, I felt compelled and coerced to deliver what they were seeking. Leticia James and Alvin Bragg may not share the same office or even the same political calendar, but they share the same playbook. From the first time I began meeting with lawyers from the Manhattan DA's office and the New York Attorney General's office in connection with their investigations of President Trump and through the trials themselves, I felt pressured and coerced to only provide information and testimony that would satisfy the government's desire to build the cases against and secure a judgment and convictions against President Trump. Cohen did testify during President Trump's civil fraud trial. He said he worked with the ex-Trump organization chief financial officer Alan Weiselberg to inflate the value of Trump's assets on financial filings. He also said that the Empire State Attorney General's team made clear that the testimony they wanted from me was testimony that would go after President Trump. Trump's lawyers also argue that Cohen's communications with these prosecutors would have been vital for defendants to use in cross-examining him at trial. So there may be a Brady violation here. But the office of Leticia James never produced any of the Cohen records concerning their meetings with him about President Trump and his businesses, despite the fact that President Trump and his legal team documented demands with the New York Attorney General's office to do so. Since the publication of this Substack article, the lawyers for President Trump have contacted the office of Leticia James to demand production of all Cohen records, but they haven't received any. Sounds like the Attorney General's office is just simply not responding either. In emails and meet and confer, the New York Attorney General has taken the untenable position that the New York AG doesn't know whether such Cohen records exist. meaning they have no idea whether it has records of their communications with key witnesses, which seems to be an incredulous position to take. The New York AG will not even take a short amount of time to determine whether they possess any Cohen records, apparently, because in the view of the New York Attorney General's office, mistakenly so, discovery is over. The defendants also expressed concern that Leticia James has been unwilling to take any steps to confirm whether any such Cohen records are being preserved or are in danger of being automatically deleted and purged. In sum, the NYAG is blocking any discovery into and possibly even preservation of evidence of the pressured and coerced testimony that it used to convince the trial court to enter a wrongful judgment against defendants. So James's office wants the New York State of Appeals to reverse the mid-level appellate decision, which vacated that $464 million judgment. It did grow to over $500 million because of interest, because it wasn't paid right away. And they did reverse it because it was excessive as a fine and barred by the U.S. Constitution. She is also not commenting directly on any questions that have been posed to her regarding Michael Cohen's Substack article. And this is wholly unsurprising to me. Seems like every single time President Trump has been in a courtroom situation, he's had the deck entirely stacked against him. Leticia James is as corrupt as they come. And of course, she probably feels a little chapped in the ass over what the Eastern District of Virginia did just a couple of months ago. I would like to remind her that that case is not done yet, and there are a number of other instances of mortgage fraud which could be brought against her. I'm just wondering what happened to all of that. Where has Bill Pulte been? Where is the DOJ on all of this? Unless the DOJ is simply going with the tactic of rolling everything into the grand conspiracy case down here in Florida. But they could bring a case in Atlanta. They could bring a case in, I believe, 3 or 4 jurisdictions. They could bring a case against Attorney General Leticia James in a different district of New York because she had a number of homes up there as well. So there are things that could happen. For some reason, they're not. And I'm just going to have to defer because I don't work for the DOJ. Thank you very much to Buck Wayne, who says, on an upside, more and more normies each day are seeing for themselves how destructive the Democrat and liberal policies are. Yes, sir, that is true. We are the news, and truth is all we need. Stay encouraged. Yes, I'm definitely with you. Trisha, thank you so much. She said second most used. Wait a minute. Yes, okay, so have you talked about the herbicide atrazine turning male frogs into females? I have. A long time ago, though. They're turning the freaking frogs gay. We talked about that on a Baseless Conspiracies, and I know that I've mentioned it on my channel before, but yeah, atrazine is definitely bad. And then you continue. It's the second most used after glyphosate. I wonder if it has anything to do with all the uptips and the sexual dysfunction of young people. That is actually something that I suggested many years ago. I think I was still on YouTube at that time. It was definitely back when I was living in Michigan. But I said that was the first thing that I thought. If they're putting endocrine disrupting substances into the environment that are turning animals gay, why would it not stand to reason that those same substances might be affecting the similar type of changes among human populations? I think that likely it would, not just, kids now being gay, but also the explosion in transgender identifying people. But that was also largely being pushed by the sort of overt social changes and the influence of propaganda in media and entertainment. And since President Trump came back, the number of people identifying with those groups has dropped precipitously. I'll get some numbers for you and I'll bring it to you. But thank you for that, Trisha. Also, thank you to Bucklebrush Jones, who said they used Hogan's sex tape to flip Cohen and Keith Davidson. Watch the video, Killed the Radio Star with Roger Stone. Okay, I will definitely check it out. And that is that for over there. Filter Dog says, I heard Kim Jong-un was happy a North Korean embassy was struck. He's included. You heard Kim Jong-un was happy a North Korean embassy was struck? I don't know anything about North Korean embassy. Intolerant Leftist says, I'm sure she put pressure on him, but he made the choice, so sympathy, he's a slimy schmuck. No, yeah, I mean, he definitely could have stuck to his guns and said, I'm not going to testify against President Trump. But he then also would have ended up in prison for a really long time, longer than he did. So, I understand the situation he was put in, and this is unfortunately what prosecutors do on a regular basis. Abenon, good to see you. Free Tina Peters. Yes, sir. Free Tina Peters. All right. Now, yesterday, someone asked me a question about former Governor Bill Richardson purchasing property near Zoro Ranch. And I said that I seem to have remembered someone saying something like that. However, I was never able to substantiate it. Well, I did a little bit more digging, and I went into the Epstein files and actually searched for governor, searching for Zoro Ranch. And it turns out that it was a different governor that Jeffrey Epstein actually acquired Zoro Ranch from. So it was former Arizona Governor Bruce King. He was a powerful force in Arizona politics from the 1950s all the way up until the 1990s. And during his final years in office, he sold the property that would become Zoro Ranch to Jeffrey Epstein for $12 million. Now, I've never looked specifically into the relationship between deceased former Governor Bruce King and Jeffrey Epstein. However, the fact that he sold him property does not necessarily indicate that he did anything wrong. The deal with the governor gave Epstein this compound, the airstrip, grazing rights to all the land around it. And that way, Jeffrey Epstein could keep Zoro Ranch as isolated as possible. And obviously, he could fly girls in and nobody would be the wiser. The sale was strange because the land around Zoro Ranch, where Epstein would hold these lavish parties and invite all of these figures of political power from New Mexico politics and bring teenage girls in to abuse, went on belonging to the King family. So this is another aspect of it. The land surrounding Zoro Ranch was still owned by the King family, which meant that Epstein was insulated to an even greater degree. He had his plot of land continuing to be owned by the King family, and then abutting it on another edge was state-owned land. So did Bruce King know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing? Certainly it's worth looking into. But before this, Epstein had no specific ties to New Mexico. He did have longstanding ties, obviously, to New York and to Florida. So there's no, overt reason that Jeffrey Epstein would choose this particular plot of land to build this compound, unless it was simply chosen because he knew that it would give him the privacy necessary to traffic girls. Now, he did have connections to Governor Bill Richardson. So perhaps Bill Richardson had suggested to him, hey, you know what? Arizona is a great place if you want, New Mexico is a great place if you really want to get away from the crowds, if you want to be able to continue on with your operation and not have people bother you. Well, I know somebody, another former governor, and perhaps I can set you guys up. Or perhaps Jeffrey Epstein had additional connections to Governor King that have not yet come to light. And he had so many interested parties within New Mexico politics that it all just came together at the right time. I think that ultimately Jeffrey Epstein chose this land because of its isolated nature, because there was no danger of people building around him and threatening that privacy, because the state's not going to build on the state land. Governor King apparently wasn't planning on building any of that land around it. But the man that was selling him the land obviously was one of the most powerful people in New Mexico. Now, shortly after Governor King left office, his son, a man by the name of Gary King, who was a state legislator, went to work for Jeffrey Epstein's other governor friend, Bill Richardson. Now, he wouldn't become governor until later, but he would also go on to become New Mexico's attorney general. So Jeffrey Epstein provided big donations to both Gary King and Bill Richardson. And when the first phase of the Epstein scandal broke in the mid-2000s, Gary King was forced to return $15,000 in donations. And he claims that he did not know Jeffrey Epstein personally. And he does it, but he did say that Jeffrey Epstein knew other members of his family. I would assume that means his father at the very least. So this is a old picture of Governor King. And so just wanted to throw that out there because somebody had asked about Richardson being the owner of the land, and find out it's somebody else. Now, also, we have yet another alias used by Jeffrey Epstein that was discovered, William Murphy, the name William Murphy. He also used that as his name on Skype. If you go through the emails, you've got over 2,000 emails that are currently in the archive that are tied to that name. He's using the name William Murphy, but he's sending the emails from his jeevacation@gmail.com email address. Now, so this is an email from Skype to his home, to his email address. So Skype sending the email that he uses to log into Skype a notification showing that Jeffrey Epstein had changed his password. And you can see here, hi there, William Murphy. Obviously, this just indicates that William Murphy is the name that Jeffrey Epstein was using. Here is another email, which is another automated reply. Again, Jeffrey Epstein changing his password for Skype. So I'll continue to look through those and see if there's anything worth showing you guys in regards to that. This is also in regards to the Zoro Ranch property, and just thought that it would be worthwhile to show you guys again. We've actually already seen this email, but I'm going to read it to you. This is an email from someone reporting to the FBI about suspicious activity they believe Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. This is on July 19th of 2019, so not long before Jeffrey Epstein was removed. So this person is a retired New Mexico State police officer. Not just some random person looking at Jeffrey Epstein and his activities. This would be somebody who was trained with investigative tools, who was normalized to identifying when things were out of place, called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center regarding this information related to Jeffrey Epstein. And he said that he lives in the neighborhood of a property that is owned by Jeffrey Epstein. The property, which is on the same road as Zoro Ranch in Stanley, New Mexico. Notice that Jeffrey had recently had a large barn that was constructed. Now, nothing specifically suspicious about a barn, but this barn is suspicious because there's a garage door that appears to be a sally port. There's also a chimney attached to this garage. Now, the reason he was concerned is because he believed the chimney appeared as if it possibly could be used for an incinerator, which would mean that an incinerator would be covertly installed inside this barn. And an old 1970s mobile home had recently been put right behind the barn. Also, that mobile home does not follow the Santa Fe County regulations. In addition to that, there are a lot of high-profile people coming and going from the property, many recently. This individual had previously heard rumors that the property was being used to recruit girls to visit with Epstein, although he has no evidence to support that. Just everybody knew basically who Jeffrey Epstein was at this time. He had heard rumors that girls from Albuquerque and Moriarty would often be recruited by Epstein and brought here to the property. He patrolled this same area for 15 years before he retired, and the property was previously owned by the governor of New Mexico, again, Bruce King, but the property was sold to Epstein before the governor passed away. The property that this individual is reporting is about 3 miles away from Epstein's mansion. Now, again, the property itself was pretty large, and we know that Jeffrey Epstein had a series of cottages that were built. That's where Bill and Hillary and Chelsea would come and stay when they would visit on a yearly basis. So this barn is constructed sort of out in the middle of nowhere with the mobile home, which would allow somebody to stay there for extended periods of time. And you have to ask yourself, why in the world would he need to place a covert incinerator out in the middle of nowhere? Well, if you've got bodies that you need to get rid of, might not be an incinerator, might actually be a crematorium. So as far as I'm aware, we don't have anything else about this. This is the only case, this is the only report that I've found related to this particular aspect of the property. And as I told you earlier in the week, the search of the Zoro Ranch property is currently ongoing. I haven't heard any reports from New Mexico state authorities as to whether or not they've located this particular building. But if it was used for the incineration and the cremation of human bodies, there likely may be some DNA evidence present somewhere within that building. So I really hope that's still there. Obviously, haven't heard anything about it getting torn down or anything, but this fully needs to be investigated. All right, you guys, I have one message very briefly from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, parents, grandparents, take a listen. This is in regards to a huge milestone that America's about to hit. We're coming up on our 250th birthday, 250 years of grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever known. It's the perfect time to help your kids understand why this country was founded, why it matters, not just the fireworks and the hot dogs, but the story behind it all. So there is the free guide. It's called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce your kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends your kids back to the moment those brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well at that time they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring old schoolwork. So if you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, it's something that you're going to want to grab. And the best part is it's totally free. All you do is pay $2 for shipping and handling. You can get it by heading over to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com, and the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is there for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. Thank you very much to the good folks over at Rumble. And, okay, nothing over there on Rumble. I thought there was something else. Okay. Now, I have another heartwarming story for you guys, because after hearing about all of that unsavoriness with Jeffrey Epstein and, politics and stuff like that, I wanted to play you this. So people on the internet have raised nearly $300,000 for an elderly man and his wife. So this woman, through DoorDash, ordered Starbucks to be delivered to her home. She got the delivery. It was delivered by an older man. He was moving very slowly. And she ended up reaching out to him, wanting to find, what's his story? Why are you doing DoorDash? I mean, you should be retired. Well, the thing is, he was retired. His wife was working, and through her job, she was getting health care insurance for both of them. She lost her job, and then she got sick. And so it was necessary for him to go back and do some kind of work. He couldn't get anything other than doing DoorDash. So the woman that had this coffee delivered, she organized a GoFundMe or a Give, Send, Go, and she and the internet raised almost $300,000 for this gentleman to be able to pay for the health care for his wife. Take a look. This was on the 10th, so happened very quickly.
Okay, I did find him. So a lady messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, he drops food off at our place of employment all the time. His name is Richard P. She tells me his name. I get on Google, find his address. I look at the video from the camera. I see what kind of car he's in. I pull it up on Google Maps. His address is like 5 minutes from where I'm at. I was like, okay, I'm going to drive over there. So I drive over there. Sure enough, there's the vehicle that he was in when he dropped off the Starbucks. And I was like, all right, this is our guy. So me and my daughter get out of the car. We head up there, and I knock on the door, and I'm like, hey, you're going to think I'm crazy, but you delivered Starbucks to my house earlier today, and we tried to get on there and adjust the tip because we were trying to give you a bigger tip, and it would not let us. So I have Googled your name, and found your address, and here I am to give you money. And the look on his face, like, he truly looked mortified. Like, what in the actual...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine how freaked out you'd be? Just like, oh my God, the internet sleuthing going on right here. But obviously it turned out to be a great story.
anyways, I was like, and I'm so sorry, I'm not trying to scare you. And I was like, so here's your tip. You know, we hope you have a very blessed day. You know, God really told us that we needed to bless you today. Like you have been on our mind and we needed to do this. And he asked us so many times, like, are you sure? Did you mean to give me this money? Can you afford it? Are you going to be okay if you give me this money? Yes, sir. You know, I'm fortunate. I do work full time. Cortland's dad, our daughter, he is disabled. So his way of like taking care of her is to do acts of kindness like that. Like he has Starbucks delivered. So, you know, it was his idea. Like, let's get this man some money, go to the bank, get the money out. Let's get him some money. So because he's been blessed in his life to have like the amazing people around him. And so he tries to give back every time he can too. So he's not able to do it physically, but financially he can. So we take the money to him, and it was sad. He had food on his face. Like, you know, he's just a little old grandpa. Like he is cute. He was adorable. I was like, can I give you a hug? He's like, any pretty lady can give me a hug anytime. But he thanked us, and he thanked us, and he thanked us. And I told him, I was like, I promise I'm not trying to be weird. I was like, you know, if you want to keep working, I'm happy to like favor your name and make sure that you are able to deliver to me, you know, whatever. And, you know, he's like, I work because I have to. I don't really want to. He said, I was actually retired, but my wife lost her job at no fault of her own, which also means she lost her health insurance. And he said, so by the time we pay our living expenses plus our medical expenses for our medicines, we have nothing left at the end of the month. So he said, this was the only thing I knew that I could for sure do to supplement our income. So I did it. And he also informed me that, you know, sometimes he has people drive him. Like if he's having bad days, he'll have people drive him. But like, this man should be retired. Like he should be at home just chilling, exercising a couple times a day to like, you know, to keep his mobility. But working, no. Like, I don't know. We need to help him. We need to help all of the elderly people in our communities who are literally struggling to walk, retire, because, you know, they took care of us at one point, and it's...
God bless this woman. So it was at 279,000 at that time. Let's see what it's at right now. Now it's at 388,000. They set the goal at 20,000 initially. Now they've raised it to 600,000. It's absolutely incredible. So yes, this is going to give him and his wife the opportunity to retire and to just spend the rest of their lives taking care of each other, not having to worry about dropping off coffee and getting paid pennies basically by DoorDash. I love seeing stuff like this. It just warms my heart, and it lets me know that humanity is not too far gone. So God bless her. All right, now, next story. Okay. So I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a hit piece that came out, I believe, in TMZ, and they were trying to claim that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had been wasting private taxpayer dollars on fruit baskets, lobster, ribeyes, billions of dollars, they said. And they put together a photo of him with all of these plastic lobsters around him, making it look like he's just blowing money on lobster, because that's, of course, what he would do. He's a wasteful person. But here's the thing. Anybody in the audience who has served, anybody who may have had family that served, you probably already know that this is not unusual, because it's not the first time that the military has taken care of our troops and fed them well, given them meals that lift their spirits. It's actually pretty common practice for the Pentagon to provide these special meals to men and women who are serving. And it happens maybe once a week, depending on where they're at. It's been done for decades. So this user on X went back and looked at the expenditures of former Department Secretary, what were they before? Not the Department of War, the Secretary of Defense. So if you look back at 2009, Richard Gates was the Secretary of Defense during the Obama administration, and he went to Afghanistan and served the troops there lobster, crab legs. All of it was shipped from the United States. It was refrigerated and then shipped into Bagram. They had a seafood night. The crew would serve up 400 tasty lobster tails, 130 pounds of Alaskan crab legs, and 135 pounds of shrimp and scallops. Now, Robert Gates was reported on as a hero for doing this. I mean, as he should, right? I mean, like, this is great. You're taking care of the people who are taking care of us. That story's still online. Another story more recently, 2024, when Lloyd Austin was the Secretary of Defense. Joe Biden was the President of the United States. They reported on it then as well. They reported at that time the military spent $103.7 million on meat, fish, and poultry, including about $16.6 million on ribeyes and 147 orders of lobster tails, which equaled about $6.1 million. Also, they flew in fresh blueberries, ice cream, and donuts. That was over $100,000 worth of those treats. So the fact that they're attacking Pete Hegseth for providing delicious, healthy food to our troops as they serve in areas around the world away from their families is a big nothing burger. And if anybody doesn't understand that, then maybe try to let them know that there is nothing wrong with feeding good food to our boys and girls in uniform. Now, also, Pete Hegseth announced yesterday a major change that's going to be happening in the military in the military bureaucracy. Let's take a listen.
Fight every single day, restoring the warrior ethos, rebuilding lethality, and reestablishing deterrence under President Trump. We've ripped out the woke distractions, slashed the red tape, and put every asset back into winning wars. But one area still needs a hard reset, and that's how we do legal support in this department. For too long, over 20 years, legal shops across the services have grown bloated, duplicative, they've muddied lines of authority and pulled critical judge advocates away from what matters most, advising commanders in the fight, on operations, in deployed environments where seconds and minutes count. And that's unacceptable. In a great power competition or with any threat that we face, commanders need agile, independent, dead-on legal advice that enables decisive action, not endless process or turf wars. They need JAGs focused on warfighting, military justice, operational law, law of armed conflict, deployed contracting, intel law, cyberspace, you name it. Everything that sharpens the edge in large-scale combat. But right now, military lawyers are sometimes stuck doing civilian side work that belongs to general counsels instead. And that drains readiness and leaves gaps where we can't afford to have them. And that's why today I'm directing the service secretaries, the Army, Navy, and Air Force, through their general counsels and JAGs and the SGA to the Commandant to execute a ruthless, no excuses review. Scrub it clean. Cut duplication and bureaucracy. Clarify roles and reporting. No more moral ambiguity. Align functions so that military legal stays laser focused on warfighting and readiness. Let civilian lawyers handle non-operational stuff. Acquisitions, civilian personnel, IP, real estate, environmental on bases, litigation outside of military channels. We laid out our recommended split, military matters to JAGs and the SGA, civilian to general counsels, with room for limited shared areas like standards of conduct or FOIA and privacy, if it makes sense for the services. But the priority is maximum support to the warfighter. And this includes reviewing active, reserve, and guard components. Are we using reserve civilian talent smartly? Is guard legal education prepping folks for the full spectrum of operations? Everything gets measured against one standard. Does it make us more lethal in competition, in crisis, or in combat? Reports are due through the Department of War General Counsel in 45 days. Delineate functions, review component distribution and education, recommend fixes to kill redundancies and to boost efficiency. And then implement it fast. Full changes within 6 months. We preserve independence. JAGs and GCs stay statutory and regulatory bosses in their lanes, and their rating change will reflect that. But independence doesn't mean silos or waste. It means delivering value to the warfighter. Bottom line, sharpen our legal edge to sharpen our warfighting edge. No more distractions, no more shortages in the fight because of misplaced priorities. Our warriors deserve legal teams as lethal and focused as they are. Let's get it done for them and for the country.
So take off the dress and pick up an XM7. Focus on fighting rather than all of the bullshit that they had them sidelined doing before. I love this. I love the fact that they are actually supporting the military, not trying to hamper them. We can't have peace through strength if we're not actually strong. If we are going to be worrying about all of the other crap that they had sidled them with previously. All right. Now, tragic story about a female activist by the name of Eva Woods in Los Angeles. Here she is. I believe this is in MacArthur Park. It's the drug den that we were talking about just the other day, where they recently had a major raid and arrested a whole bunch of drug dealers. Well, she decided that there wasn't enough being done to support the homeless, even though you and I both know there's billions of dollars being pumped into the homeless industrial complex in Los Angeles and across California. So she went to MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, California on February 22nd. Her goal was to feed the homeless. She showed up with a bunch of Pop-Tarts and a bunch of other things to hand out to people. But as you can see, she's just one white woman all alone. So while she was there, she was severely beaten by a pipe-wielding homeless woman, and it essentially left her nearly at death's door. Eva Woods has been doing this for quite some time. For about 6 years, she's gone to MacArthur Park or other places around Los Angeles to feed homeless people. And a GoFundMe has been set up by her friends. This homeless woman, I guess, approached Woods from behind and just bashed her in the face with a metal pipe out of nowhere. She's going to need surgery on her upper and lower jaw. She's probably going to need dental implants as well. And she's maybe going to have to rethink whether or not this is the kind of work that she wants to do. But the group that she works with provides more than 700 meals each week. They say to the unhoused, but to homeless people there in MacArthur Park. And over the last 6 years, they've built what they thought were some pretty good relationships with people. They're there 3 days a week, Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. They host monthly events and supply drives. They pass out hygiene kits, grocery items, tents, shelter supplies, medical supplies, basically everything you need if you're going to stay homeless in Los Angeles. And that money is coming from somewhere. I don't know how they're getting the funding to do it, but Eva was allegedly pretty dedicated to this. It's just a shame that someone had to come up and beat her nearly to death with a metal pipe. So she was just standing there. This woman came up and just hit her in the face, and then she was taken to the hospital, had surgery. Both her upper and lower jaws were broken. Her jaw is now wired shut for the next 4 weeks, and then after that, she's going to have to get dental implants. This woman and this incident, the friend claims, are not representative of the culture of MacArthur Park. Really? Are you serious? Because these areas where homeless are attracted in Los Angeles are some of the most dangerous places you can go. She continues by saying this was absolutely a bizarre one-off. I would say that for every Eva that went to MacArthur Park and was not attacked, there were incidents of people being victimized, beaten, robbed, terrible things happening all across Los Angeles. So I think the only thing that's unusual is that Eva wasn't hit in the face with a pipe earlier. Here is the total cost. Looks like about $30,000 that she's going to have to pay. Dental implants are going to be about $25,000 of that. And then several $100 in various aspects of the treatment, $1,000 for x-rays, etc. They don't even list the surgery that took place here. So that surgery is probably going to be another several tens of thousands of dollars. Very, very sad. All right. Now, a tragedy also in Los Angeles. A 12-year-old girl is no longer alive. Her family has filed a lawsuit against the Los Angeles Unified School District. Now, essentially, this girl was bullied to death. And the family had talked to the school about it, but the school did nothing about it. They repeatedly ignored the warnings about the level of bullying that was happening on campus. The environment that their daughter was forced to exist in was pretty dangerous, and because they did nothing, eventually that led to the death of this young girl. So there was a confrontation, and Kimberly, who is no longer alive, was stepping in to defend her older sister as she was being bullied on February 17th. During this confrontation, another student threw a metal water bottle that hit the 12-year-old in the head. That caused severe brain trauma. Kimberly was hospitalized and placed into a medically induced coma. Doctors discovered a brain bleed. They did give her emergency surgery. She was under treatment for several days, but then she ended up passing away on February 25th. Now, her death, thankfully, is being investigated by the LAPD as a homicide, as it should. The lawsuit alleges that Kimberly's sister had repeatedly been bullied and targeted by the same people every single day prior to this incident, and that the school did absolutely nothing to intervene. So school administrators cannot let giant fights just erupt in the middle of campus and not do anything about it, the attorney for the family said. This is totally inexcusable, and that is unfortunately what happened in this case. The same group of kids that attacked these sisters had also bullied and hurt another child prior to the February 17th attack. There's also a social media video of the bullying incident circulating online with the caption which states, "Happy Tuesday." And we can go ahead and actually see that right here. This is really tragic.
The faces in this video to protect the identity of minors. It's hard to see what's happening in parts of the video, but this portion shows a student hurling what appeared to be a water bottle container in Zavaletta's direction. Glassman said that's the object that struck the victim's head, and that Zavaletta was trying to help her sister, who was allegedly being bullied by a group of kids when they attacked.
Really awful. Kids can be monsters, but it seems like even more monstrous nowadays than they were when I was a young kid. All right, now, good news for the citizens of North Carolina. The North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation has just arrested the Wilkes County Register of Deeds, Miss Misty Michelle Smithy. There was a drug investigation in Wilkes County, and Smithy has been charged with the possession of methamphetamine and conspiracy to possess methamphetamine. She was taken into custody without incident and booked into the Wilkes County Detention Center. The SBI continues its work to address illegal drug activity throughout North Carolina. Further details about this investigation will be forthcoming. Likely, I would believe that there must be other people involved in this. And the reason I'm excited about this is because this woman was in a position of public trust. She was an employee of Wilkes County, and she was also apparently a methamphetamine dealer. So she is now going to be off the streets, and that is good. Also, good to have somebody else off the streets, a man by the name of Timothy Brockerman. Timothy Brockerman drove across state lines into the District of Columbia. He intended to sexually abuse a 6-year-old child. Janine Pirro says he didn't fantasize. He acted. The office, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to prosecute anyone who intends to harm a child and bring the full force of justice against them. All right. And we will go ahead and close it out there. Let me see if I've got any more thank yous to give over here on Rumble or on Pilled. And let's see. All right. Got that. Got that. Got that. Okay. All right. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says North Korean embassy. Okay, I will pull up the North Korean embassy tweet. Let's go ahead and check that out. Thank you, Filter Dog. Okay, a missile attack accidentally struck the North Korean embassy in Tehran. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's going to be a conversation that Kim Jong-un and President Trump are going to have. Yeah. All right. I'll see what else I can find about it. That's interesting. Also, Judy the Lady Pug, thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. And Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie as well. All right. Before we head out, I have one final message from our friends over on Rumble. You guys, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, I guess you must be living in a hole because it's everywhere. Right now, you still have an opportunity to get some of this. You're going to be getting in their starter kit a bold dark roast, a smooth medium roast, and a Vitality mushroom coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus without the crash. It's all from the highest quality beans you can get. Single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold-free. You'll also get a free gold spoon clip, a strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's yours for just $99. This is for every person watching who has been wondering whether or not 1775 is worth trying. It's been blowing up. Should you get it? The truth is, yes, you should. And to do that, just go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. You can use that QR code on screen or the link that you're going to see in the chat, 1775coffee.com/studio. Thank you very much to Rumble. All right, you guys, if you haven't yet, consider hitting the like button, hitting the red pill, hitting the thumbs up, wherever you're at, whatever platform you're watching on. That would be awesome. And that will be all. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. And until that time, good luck and God bless. I'll set you guys up with a raid to another channel. I'll figure it out in just a moment.